Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. There's a lot of stuff that I'd like to cover and much more stuff than I can reasonably get to, but I thought I would cover this because it's something I've touched upon before as regards Grand Theft Auto and the problematic or offensive nature of the game, and just as I've covered it in other videos such as the ones I did on the game 6 Days in Fallujah, right, that offensive material has the right to exist, and that there is a difference between personal offense, right, or personal distaste toward a work or the various elements, themes, archetypes, or whatnot in that work, and then actually claiming or proving that the content in a creative work is somehow harmful or creates an adverse impact for people in the real world, right, who are part of real world groups and communities. Right, so first of all, before I go into this, I hope everybody's doing well. As you can probably tell from the sound of my voice, I'm very tired. Um, just been very crazy these past few weeks. You would think that I'd be used to it by now, given that I've been in my profession for a decade, but nope. Still not used to it, which is why I'm doing voiceover today. I don't really feel like being on camera, but we're okay. RJ's currently snoozing in my bed, so overall things are all right. And I hope everyone's doing well, or at least as well as you can do in the bizarro real world we all have to exist and live in, right? So first off, I want to give a shout out to Bounding into Comics, because it is through their site that I came across this article and came across the actual open letter, which I will be covering. So I'm not going to cover the Bounding into Comics article too much, but it says here that UK LGBT plus organization calls on Rockstar to censor GTA 5 remaster out of fear it will promote violence against trans and gender diverse people. I don't even know what in the world gender diverse means outside of perhaps non binary individuals, and that's still a definition and a topic that is hotly debated, right? Or perhaps people who are gender non conforming, but we just usually call them tomboys, like myself. But anyway, let's look at the letter itself, because that's what I really wanted to cover. But a big thanks to Bounding into Comics for covering this topic and for providing a link to the open letter. So here's the actual letter, which is archived. So it says here, and this is from September 29th, so it's only a few days old. Now, whether or not this actually was sent to Rockstar, or if they've actually seen it or heard it, is beyond me. But we see here an open letter to Rockstar Games, right? For those who don't know, Rockstar Games, their most famous franchise, or one of their most famous franchises, is of course the Grand Theft Auto games, which have been around for about 20 years now. Because most people think that GTA started with like GTA 3 because that was the first 3D action adventure one, but they really have like games like GTA 2, GTA 1969, the first Grand Theft Auto, which was a top-down type game, very different than what the series would be famous for. And then there are other sort of side spin-off games like Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories, Chinatown Wars, and other types. So it actually really is this big franchise. It's much larger than I think people who don't really follow the franchise realize it is, because it has these smaller spin-off titles, and its first few titles aren't really that well remembered. But anyway, it says here, in the end, Rockstar also makes the Red Dead Redemption games, which is more or less GTA, but in the Wild Wild West. But anyway, it says here, an open letter to Rockstar Games. Dear Rockstar Games, we are out making games. Okay. A group of hundreds of LGBTQ plus games professionals working in the UK games industry. Okay. You probably know some of us as individuals. In fact, you probably employ some of us. Your games are awesome. So awesome, apparently, they need to be altered. But anyway, we really love them. Millions of people play them, and as a result, they have a huge cultural impact. That's a statement I would contest. I mean, yes, GTA is popular, Red Dead Redemption is popular, but I fail to see where it has a real world cultural impact. I don't exactly recall characters like Tommy Vercetti becoming, sort of these crossover mainstream uh, icons or anything like that. It's not as if, he brought back the Hawaiian shirt or anything. But anyway, what you put in your games can have real world consequences and influences the way players see the world and treat people. So we have the 6 days in Fallujah argument. For those who may not know or don't remember, earlier this year I did a few videos on a change.org petition that was trying to get the video game 6 Days in Fallujah canceled before it was even released. And one of the arguments that was made in that change.org petition was that the game and its content was going to more or less teach people to be violent toward and dehumanize brown-skinned peoples, in particular Arabs. The article nor the Change.org petition ever provided any proof that this could happen or would happen or did happen, but it was simply a case of, because it's dealing with a real, at the time, a real world active war, and we all know how that ended back in August of this year. Not well, to say the least, but that because it was dealing with a real world war and events that it was going to impact how people treat real world Arab Americans, Middle Easterners, Muslims, what have you. So it's making the same argument here, but for the LGBTQ community, in particular trans individuals, despite having no proof of this game or any sort of media, right, in games or anything else, contributing to any sort of real world adverse impact or violence or anything like that uh, toward the trans community. You know what has real world consequences and influences the way people treat other people? Real life itself. That's what does that. The real world does that. But anyway, continuing. We are writing to you regarding Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced and Expanded Edition scheduled for release in 2022. We were prompted by this Kotaku article. I'm certain that Kotaku article is just nuanced and reasonable, which recaps specific examples from the original release that are transphobic and connects them to the real world consequences in of transphobia. Now I'm going to go back to the uh, Bounty in the Comics article, right? So I'm assuming they mean images like this, these clearly male bodies dressed in feminine clothing, right? Or let's see here. This this very naughty joke here, right? She-male bop, of course. She-male being a offensive term for trans women. It's actually a play on words here because again, she-male is this very offensive term for trans women, but it also plays on the Cyndi Lauper song "She Bop," which was about masturbation. So it's offensive and it's a dirty joke all in one. That's the kind of humor um, the GTA franchise is known for, right? So continuing, says here, given this is an enhanced and expanded edition, change is a selling point. I don't know of too many people who want changes. The typical refrain tends to be, "Why did you change this?" But I guess with them saying it's enhanced and expanded, you are going to expect some change. Perhaps that they would add things that couldn't go in the original release due to system issues or time constraints or whatnot. But generally speaking, in my experience, most of the time when a game is released and remastered, there is a contingent of fans who would just like the game to be left more or less as it is. It's like, okay, update the graphics perhaps, but don't change anything else. But anyway, continuing. This is a great opportunity to remove transphobic elements from the game and have a positive impact on the new generation of players who will pick up a copy. You have yet to identify any transphobic elements in the game. Yes, there are dirty jokes, there are offensive jokes, but offense does not necessarily equal a phobia or a particular hatred of a particular group of people. Again, there is GTA, I should say, has always had a very snarky, uh, at times absurdist and satirical sense of humor and makes fun of pretty much everything, especially about American culture, in a particular time period, right? So, again, offensive humor, dirty jokes is sort of their purview, and they spare no particular group of people. I'm surprised they aren't complaining about GTA Vice City Stories, which actually did have a trans character that it was Vice City. Vice City Stories, who the lead character has to protect, and the joke about the trans character, I think the name is Remy, I think it is that they switch genders as easily as people change clothes, but you're complaining about GTA 5. Okay. All right. But let's continue. 2020 was one of the most violent years for trans people since recording began. In 2020, over 350 trans and gender diverse people were murdered. Many were killed inside their own homes. These records were compiled by Trans Respect versus Transphobia Worldwide. Okay, but here's the thing. And I want to be clear. My heart goes out to those 350 individuals who lost their lives. There was no need for them to die. Right? But you're talking about more or less domestic violence. Yes, unfortunately, it stands to reason that domestic violence is one of those tragic crimes that went up last year because most of us were confined to our homes. So, whereas in a normal situation, you have reasons to leave your house, right? You have to go shopping, you have to go pick up the kids, you have to go to school, you have to go to work. Given that we were told to more or less shelter in place across the world, not just in America, not just in the UK, but we had to do this across the world. So your reasons for leaving your home were incredibly reduced. So yes, if you were living in an abusive situation at home, your avenues of escape, even for a temporary amount of time, were incredibly limited. So sadly, I am not surprised that these people lost their lives and that this happened. But again, as much as my heart goes out to those people and those families, again, there was no need for these people to be killed. What you're describing is a domestic violence issue, right? That's what you're describing, not a media issue, right? You have again provided no example of how, in any way, a dirty joke, a dirty joke in GTA 5 contributes in any way to domestic violence and crime and murder. You have not provided a connection. There's no bridge connecting these two. You're trying to create the bridge, but you have no materials to build with. But anyway, continuing. As Carolyn Pettit writes in Kotaku, unlike for other random NPCs in GTA 5, the game appears to purposely play into extremely harmful stereotypes of trans and gender diverse peoples to encourage players to be repulsed by them and to even relish hurting and killing them. Again, where is your proof of this? GTA has made fun of various types of people in various groups. Where is your proof that they're playing into particularly harmful stereotypes? Because if you're talking about, say, this, maybe you could argue it's a harmful stereotype, but if anything, this just looks incredibly silly to me. I think more of just, say, 80s rock stars who definitely dressed like this and went on stage in these type of clothes. Look at early Motley Crue. So, if anything, you could argue that perhaps it's mocking certain types of trans individuals, right? And making fun of them, making them look silly. You could at best argue that, but I don't see where this or any other sort of dirty or offensive joke, such as this one here, right? Post op, no longer just mail, your package is safe in our hands, right? Sort of making fun of UPS. So again, I fail to see where this is contributing to actual harm or some sort of re- repulsion. It's a joke made at a particular group's expense. This is what GTA does. If you don't like that, and I want to be clear, if the writer of this article is sincerely offended because of jokes like this, they have every right to their offense. It's not for me to tell them to not be offended, right? I'm not trans. Perhaps if I were, maybe I would find it offensive, right? I'm looking from the outside in. So I want to be clear. I'm not trying to dictate or tell this person, well, you shouldn't be offended. No. We all have our sensitivities. We all have our preferences. And we all have what we find, I guess, our aversions, right? Or things that just turn us off or just make us uneasy, right? And if dirty jokes made at a particular group's expense make this person uneasy, especially if they are part of that group, well then fine. That's fine. You are entitled to your opinions, you're entitled to your feelings, right? Taste is subjective. You don't have to like GTA 5. You can say, "Hey, I don't like these mocking jokes and caricatures of trans individuals, and I find it offensive, and I don't want to play this game." You're absolutely within your rights if that's how you feel. The difference, though, is that this isn't a person simply saying, "I find this offensive and distasteful, and therefore I don't like this game." You have a person who's trying to argue that what they consider offensive and distasteful toward a particular group of people is going to harm that particular group of people. And I think if you're going to make a claim like that, you better come correct. A Kotaku article and your personal offense is not enough, right? So that's my argument there. You need more proof than just your personal offense. I don't like horror, but I'm not going to claim Resident Evil has led to a rise in murders. You know what I mean? But anyway, he says, we reject any argument of equal opportunity violence. Of course you do. Because then it dismantles your narrative, right? Against all types of characters in GTA 5. That argument is missing the point. You haven't made a point yet, but okay. Given the cultural impact, again, that's debatable. GTA 5 has around the world. Rockstar has a social responsibility. No, they don't. To your players, many of whom are LGBTQ, and that's a good point. Many of them will be LGBTQ. But who are you out making games? Who are you to more or less have the ego to take it upon yourselves collectively as a group to try to speak for the LGBTQ community, not only in gaming, but also in the UK. Here's the thing. As I said earlier, taste is subjective. Yes, there are going to be trans individuals and non trans individuals who look at a joke like this and find it offensive, right? Or who look at this and find it offensive. And that's fine. But there are also going to be those who look at this type of thing, right? Who look at this and who find it hilarious and who laugh their faces off, who find it funny. You have no say over how individual people who may or may not be part of a particular marginalized social group are going to respond to references made to that group in media that is available or made available to everyone who wants it, right? Here's the thing about GTA or just video games in general, right? You have to make an active choice to engage in a video game. It's not like, say, music that plays on the radio in a public space and you personally have no say over it, right? Like, I can go to a store, go shopping, and there'll be a radio on, right? And I have no say in what songs that radio plays, right? They could, for all I know, start playing "Last Christmas" by George Michael, and I have no say in it, right? I didn't choose that. I hate that song, but I have no choice in it. It's beyond me. Video games are not like that, right? Even movies are not quite like that because you have an active choice. You have to choose to play or watch GTA 5. You have to choose to play the spin off games Lost and Damned or The Ballad of Gay Tony, right? You have to choose to put down money, usually $60 or more, to play this game. Hell, even before you do that, you have to choose and make the financial commitment of buying a video game system that oftentimes is close to or upwards of $500 just so you can purchase a $60-some video game and play it. Or again, you could go the cheaper route or more expensive depending on the price of one's computer, right? But you can also go the route of just watching a playthrough if you don't want to make that type or can't make that type of financial commitment. My point is, this is something you have to choose to interact with. This is not something that is forced upon you. No one is forcing you, unless it's somehow part of your job to play GTA games or something, like if you're a streamer or whatnot. Right? No one is forcing you as an individual to interact with a particular video game that you personally find offensive. You are making that choice. It's not as if Rockstar plays. It's not like there's like TV screens all over the place everywhere that you go. Like, you know, ads when you live in a city, right? And everywhere you look is some sort of advertisement, and you can't avoid it. No. You can totally avoid this if you want to. Instead of simply avoiding something that you don't like, you have decided to try to get it changed, to more or less get it censored because it bothers you. Grow up. I don't demand that games like Silent Hill or Resident Evil or Splatterhouse or anything else be changed on my account because I don't like horror. I simply go, hey, not for me. I'll play something else. I'll play Tekken. I'll play Street Fighter. I'll play Metal Gear. I'll play anything else but those. I make the choice. I'm in control. Not the company. But anyway, rant over for now. Right, and again, you have provided no proof about how this promotes violence against trans or gender diverse individuals, then you'd have to argue that it promotes violence against everybody, which it doesn't. The whole thing is that GTA is a goofy, offensive, satirical send up, right? It's mocking society, in particular American society. If you're really concerned about violence against trans individuals, and that's certainly a valid and noble cause to be concerned about. But if you're concerned about that, then perhaps you should get involved with some real world organizations that deal with this, that study it, that try to figure out what causes violence against trans individuals and how to mitigate that and how to get trans people out of those situations, right? Maybe try to deal with the real world issue instead of accusing a video game of participating in or creating or contributing to that real world issue, especially when you can provide absolutely no evidence. Again, you have no bridge. You don't have the materials to build this bridge here that you're trying to create. It's the 6 days in in Fallujah drama all over again. The only difference is that this has supposedly been sent out and addressed to Rockstar Games as opposed to trying to get a change.org petition going. And believe me, it would not surprise me if this particular group tries to get a change.org petition going. I'm not saying they will, but if they do, you heard it here first. But anyway, the 2022 release of GTA 5 Enhanced and Expanded could be a unique opportunity for Rockstar to correct the problem. You have not proven that there is a problem. The only thing you've proven is that there are things about the game that you find offensive, and that is fine, but that does not mean there's a problem here. We would like to hear back. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. About your plans to address the issue of portrayals of trans and gender diverse characters in GTA 5. Well, aren't you a demanding bunch? If you are not sure where to start, please let us know and we can begin a discussion. But you haven't made an argument. You haven't made an argument outside of "this offends me." I am offended that you haven't made an argument to prove your point. How can you begin a discussion when you're already accusing them of being a problem? But anyway, about the changes you can make to in-game portrayals to help save trans lives. 1 second. Okay, as I was saying, it says here that changes you can make to in-game portrayals to help save trans lives. Look, I'm all for helping to save trans lives. I'm all for helping to save all types of lives, right? ALM. But here's the thing. How can they help, right, if you don't tell them, or rather, if you cannot provide a if you can't prove your case is basically what I'm trying to say. And here's the thing, and I don't want to be callous, but I'm going to be a little callous. The GT, or how do I say it? Rockstar Games as a company does not work in the social service industry, right? This is not the industry they work in, right? They are not lawmakers. They are not politicians. They are not grievance counselors, right? They don't work in those type of jobs, right? Their job has nothing to do with addressing real world, real life issues. They're a video game company. They're an entertainment company. Their only job, their only obligation is to create fantasy worlds for people to play in and suspend their disbelief in for a little while. That's it. Now, if they decide to do things like donate an X amount of money to a particular real world organization to help save trans lives or improve trans lives, or social services for trans or LGBTQ individuals, that's great. If they want to contribute in that way, which is what a lot of companies do, whether they uh, make that public or not, that's fine. That's great. Those type of organizations always need money. But in the end, Rockstar is not obligated to try to save anyone's life or the lives of anybody in a particular um, social group. That's literally not their job. Their job is to entertain. Now, if they again want to go outside of that and try to monetarily donate toward or support a real world organization that helps trans individuals, that's wonderful. Whether they do it as individuals or as the Rockstar Games company. But again, it's not an obligation and it's not a social responsibility that they have. If you personally want to help out with saving trans lives or making trans lives better or making trans individuals more accepted in Western society, well, then again, you have to address the real world issues, not a fantasy video game that you find offensive. I think that's the best thing out making games could do if they truly want to help the lives of trans and LGBTQ individuals in the UK and across the world. Deal with the real world and stop trying to focus your efforts on sanitizing a fantasy world. If you don't like it, that's fine. If the jokes made at the expense of trans individuals is offensive to you out making games, that's fine. You have every right to your offense. You do not have the right to demand that this company change their game or change elements in it because you, as a collective group, are personally offended in one way or another. That's not how you get a dialogue started. That's not how you change how any group is depicted in media. People don't like to be accused of bad things or being a bad person or being a social ill, especially if you cannot provide valid proof of it. You know what that does? It makes people dismiss you, dismiss your argument, and dig their heels in. This is not a good approach. This is not a good approach at all if you were looking to see any change or get any response out of Rockstar. I don't think they're going to respond. But then again, who knows? I've been proven wrong before. But again, this is like uh, 6 days in Fallujah, right? This is just basically these elements offend us. Please get rid of them. I say, if these elements in the game, or any type of game, it could be the violence, it could be the sex, it could be the themes, it could be whatever. If the elements of a particular video game or any sort of work are offensive to you for whatever reason, then, as far as it depends upon you, don't engage with the work. I repeat, don't engage when don't engage in the work. I don't go watch Marvel movies. You know why? Cuz I'm a comics purist, I'm a comics enthusiast, and the MCU is not for me. The MCU is not about keeping comics accurate to the source material. It's about making movies that the widest audience, the normies, can enjoy. That's fine, but it's not for me. So I don't watch them. I didn't watch Captain Marvel because I knew I wouldn't like it. If I don't like what they've done in the comics to the character, why the hell would I watch the film about the character I don't like? You see what I mean here? There are other things to do with your time. There are real world issues that this group could be helping to address, and maybe they do. But in my opinion, they are barking up the wrong tree. If your goal is to save people's lives, especially those in a particular marginalized group, then focus on the real world issues that cause real harm and real adverse impact on that group. Not a video game series and a video game company known for taking the piss out of everything and everyone. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are. Bye.